Hello everybody, Jared Voley here for CreativeStandup.com. In this video I'm going to reply to a comment that I got on a video about the mask falling off, like kind of making a mistake on stage. So the first video was entitled Taking the Mask Off, I believe, something along those lines. But the general idea is that there was a comedian that forgot what the next joke was going to be, so they had to reach into their pocket, and then they made a really funny comment, and that comedian asked me why that comment was so funny, even though it wasn't like a real joke. And so I offered my opinion on that, and I posted that one on YouTube. And then I got a great comment. Somebody else came in with their own perspective, and it's a great perspective. I'm not going to trash it at all, but I do want to add another opinion, right? Because there's more than one thing can be right at the same time in real life. There doesn't have to be one single correct answer, and I'm going to show you that here in this video. So the first thing, let's talk about the question is, does humor require having a victim? All right, so I'm going to basically treat this question as a question about superiority theory of comedy. So if you know about the different theories there are about why we laugh, there are several major ones. Superiority theory is the first major one that I think it was maybe formalized around the 1700s or so. But then after that there was stress relief or tension relief theory, and then from there was incongruency theory, and there's also play theory, and my favorite, which is benign violation theory. I'm only going to be tackling the first one in this video because that's the crux of the question. So let's get to the question. All right, superiority theory makes two different claims about comedy, or there's two different positions that you can have. The strong position for superiority is saying that all humor in some way requires a feeling of superiority and inferiority, right? It requires some kind of victim. It requires putting down someone or something. That position is fairly difficult to defend, and I'm going to give you 4 examples in a moment of why that's so difficult to defend. The weak theory is what the weak theory says is that it doesn't say that all. It says that it is often the case that humor and superiority go hand in hand. That is, from a scientific perspective, that is empirically accurate, right? You can defend that position rather well. You cannot defend the 100% position, but you can say that in most circumstances, there is a situation where you can say, yes, there's clearly a butt of the joke, but not in all. You can't go quite that far. So let's talk about the 4 examples of why it's so difficult to, why you don't actually need a victim in order to make a joke. So we'll go in order of my favorite. The early one, the small ones, I think they're partially defendable, but you have to do some backflips. But I think like by the 4th one, you're just, I can't find a good way of justifying that there's a victim. And then, by the way, when I'm done with those 4, I'm going to give you an alternative idea for what could cause the humor instead of victimhood. So, example number 1. You are walking around the house searching for your eyeglasses, and then you realize that the glasses have been on top of your head the whole time. Or you're searching for your pen, and you realize that the pen is in your hand, your car keys are in your pocket, right? So this is one of those, oh my God, I was being such an idiot, right, at the time. So when you laugh at that situation, when you pull out your keys and you're just like, oh my God, of course, right? You can maybe say that you're your own victim, or that the old you is a victim. But the problem with superiority theory is that it pretty much always states, or I would say very strongly hints, that the butt of the joke does not laugh, right? The one that receives the maybe the hurtful comment or whatever usually does not laugh, right? And if they do, it's probably not a real laugh. It's probably like, oh, I'll try to fit in kind of a laugh, right? Like if you make fun of a religion on stage, then the people that belong to that religion might laugh, but they might they probably don't really think that it's funny, like on a deeper level. Or I would guess that that's true. Anyway, so that's idea number one, is that you cannot find your eyeglasses. Idea number two is that we feel superior to a lot of things, right? Humans are pretty awesome when it comes to when we're comparing, right? So we feel superior to dogs and cats and trees and all this, but we don't find any humor in that superiority, right? There needs to be something else to account for humor, right? By itself, superiority doesn't really matter, right? It can just as easily lead to feeling superior, might lead to having pity on somebody, right? It does not explain what else is going on. It just says that this is one ingredient in the recipe, right? So what is interesting, though, is that when a dog does something that is like human-like, we laugh, right? So when the dog does something awesome, like if you and I were sitting on the sofa and like your dog ran off, opened the refrigerator, came back with a beer and gave it to you, I would probably start laughing. But at the same time, there's no victim here, right? Unless you're saying that I didn't get a beer, which is not fair at all either. But there's no real victim, right? I can just absolutely appreciate and think that that is so awesome that that's a thing, right? I can just love that that is a real thing that just happened and I got to see it, right? There doesn't need to be a victim there. So when a dog is doing something that is almost human-like, that's when we laugh. Not when dogs do dog-like things, we don't laugh. When they do human-like things, we do. So that doesn't really fit with superiority theory. Number three is a theory from Decker, and then this one came out in, I believe, 1993. And I want to include this one because it's not a thought experiment. This is actually a scientific empirical study. So what Decker did in this psychological study is that he took participants and they had two different weights, and they looked exactly the same. And he said, okay, pick up this weight, and they picked it up, and they said, okay. And then he said, okay, now pick up the next weight. And the next weight was either way lighter or way heavier than it should have been, right? So they pick up this one, and they say this is the same, and then they pull it up, and it just goes way, it's much lighter than they thought. Right? And then he observed that. He said most people laugh when that happens, right? So that fits more with like incongruency theory, right? Most people laugh when they pull this up, but there's no real victim here, right? And if there is a victim, you would have to say that they are the victim, right? But we have to admit that there is a pleasurable response to having, like our expectations were kind of broken in this moment, and we found it to be a pleasurable surprise. All right, so I don't think there's a victim there, but you might be able to find a way to say that is a victim. I will respect that boundary there. And then the last one, the one that I think is absolutely a killer for this, is if you open up the refrigerator and you see a bowling ball, you can laugh at the bowling ball, right? You open up and that's just not what you would expect to see. It's weird, it's inappropriate, and then you can just let out a laugh. But there is no way that I can see that you have a victim here, right? There's no victim to this joke at all. So you can laugh even though there is absolutely no way of having a victim, in my mind. So wait, with that out of the way, let's do the what I find to be an awesome theory that kind of tags on to this victim idea. So let's say that we take this situation that the first video was talking about. We have a comedian on stage that fumbles a little bit and then makes a comment, and then that comment gets people laughing, right? So you and I can be sitting in the audience and we can both laugh at that faux pas, or whatever you want to call it, that mistake. You might legitimately laugh because you feel better about yourself. That is, it is a defensible position to say that, yeah, when I saw that happen, when I saw that, like when I watch fail videos, I feel good about myself. I would say no. I mean, like, that's not where I feel like I'm laughing, but humor is too subjective to say that. I can't just say, no, you're wrong there, because there is a legitimate way where you could say that. However, I would probably subscribe more to what is the opposite, the inferiority theory of comedy. So, right, the superiority theory says, I'm happy because I'm relatively better off. Either my group or me, I got boosted up, or somebody that I hate got put down. Either one of those will leave you relatively better off. And so superiority theory says that that is a pleasurable thing, and that given the right circumstances, that will make you laugh. However, inferiority theory subscribes to the idea that we can connect with each other. We can like recognize a little bit of ourself in other people, right? Which is also supported in neurological research. Right? If you know about mirror neurons in the brain, like this is exactly the kind of thing that it would do. Anyway, so I don't want to go off on that tangent. Inferiority theory, so it would say that when I see somebody do something stupid, I can laugh because it makes me feel better about the knowledge that I am not perfect either, right? I can say like a piece of me is in that person, right? And maybe that would explain why when somebody does something incredibly stupid, you wouldn't laugh, right? So there's like a little bit stupid is not funny enough to really maybe notice, but then pretty stupid you can laugh at, but then just ridiculous you might just shake your head and go, no, that's too far, or it's not funny, or I don't understand how other people could see that's funny. So that might be the case that like as the craziness goes on, then maybe you can't identify with it as well. So inferiority theory would be able to predict that that as you keep going further and further away, you might actually break the joke. Anyway, so going back, inferiority theory. I might laugh at a comedian making a mistake because I am a comedian and I have made mistakes, right? So I can feel for that person, right? And I don't have to feel pity. I don't have to be sympathizing and say, poor you, but I can empathize. I can be like, oh my God, I remember doing that too. Like that sucks, but you know, I can have nothing but love for that person while also taking pleasure in the shared experience that we have. Right? And people that are like hardcore into this idea of inferiority theory might point to like the Three Stooges and how they do really silly, crazy, weird things. And they would say like there's a piece of us in that idea or in the Three Stooges. And I think that that's going too far. As I kind of said, that I think the theory breaks once you're trying to go that far. You just have to bend over backwards in order to make what you want to see fit the theory that you've already decided is correct. So I don't think that's correct either. But what I do think is interesting is that you and I can sit in the audience and we can both legitimately laugh at the same thing for totally different reasons. All right, and somebody else might be like the play theory of humor. Somebody else might be just thinking, oh, it's just fun that we're playing like this. This is just cognitive play, right? So there are many different, I guess, stimuli that can trigger humor, but I would push back on the idea that this has to be a victim idea, or there has to be a victim within the joke. So I don't actually believe that's true. Anyway, I hope that answered the question. I absolutely loved reading a YouTube comment that wasn't pure shit. That doesn't happen very often anymore. Anyway, so but anyway, I'm gonna make some more videos. I've been loving this so much. Keep these questions coming. I love being able to actually connect with you guys on a video now. I have been writing individual emails and sometimes just cutting and pasting old responses into emails, but I never felt like I really connected with you guys. So I love this. Keep your questions coming. I'm Jared Voley for CreativeStandup.com.